Let's see, people are starting to hop in.
Give it a minute for everybody to filter in. We're a couple minutes early. Do you want me to admit whoever's in the lobby?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Some people are having some problems getting on. Thanks everyone for hopping on. Give a few more minutes to people for people to get into the room here.
Impressed people are on early. I'm always late to calls. I'm always like a minute late.
If you're not early, you're late, Nick.
I know. I get that on my team all the time. Everyone's rushing to be the early one. It's like, if this call's at 10:30, I'm on at 10:31. They're like, "You're late." I'm like, it's debatable, right? I don't know.
I was always taught if you're on time, you're late too.
Yeah, that's both of what you say is true. I'm just trying to justify my own actions.
Fair.
Just stay valuable to the team, and then you show up when you want to, Nick.
Well, I can tell you that won't work. No matter how valuable I am, show up when I want to. They're gonna be like, "Yeah, you can show up at the door and get out."
See some more people trickling in. Give them a minute or two after 10:30. People pull up. The teams, maybe if they're logging.
We'll give the rest of the Knicks of the world, a minute to get on the call.
Here.
What do you think? Should we kick it off?
It's up to you guys. You think it's just want to give it a minute?
I'm good. I'm ready to roll. Either way.
Yep.
All right, perfect. Send out this last email to everybody. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on our meeting here. This is going to be going over some impaired risk cases, case study, as well as some of the niches that Lincoln Financial specializes in. My name's Ephraim Steigerwald. I'm here with Dunhill Insurance. And this is going to be Nick Majors with Lincoln Financial and Will Walker. He's our chief underwriter. So to kind of dig into it, I'll give a quick background on Dunhill. We've been around for 30 years. We've done some of the largest cases in the industry. By doing so, it's led us to be experts in the impaired risk realm, having these great relationships with underwriters, working with underwriting teams across the carriers. So love to share with you guys the strategies we use and utilize. Lincoln being one of our favorite companies to use to implement these strategies. So I'll let Nick kind of take it away from here.
Sure. I appreciate it, man. And, just to kind of give a little, I'll say, outside looking in, Dunhill has been a titan in this space, especially working in the large market business, focusing in, I'll call it the oddball underwriting world. So if you have a case that maybe has been difficult or hard to get through in the past, you might want to give Ephraim a call. He can probably work with you guys to find a potential solution, whether it's with Lincoln or whether it's another carrier. that's where their bread and butter is working and finding different ways to make those insurance opportunities sing, even if they don't work at a particular carrier. So that's one of the reasons why they're having us on the call today. My name is Nick Majors. I'm the sales VP with Lincoln, covering the California region. And what we're going to dive into today is some of our niches that we have in the impaired risk space, just some advantages that, make us different in that world and help us really capture some of that business. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of share a screen real quick and we'll run through a couple examples. And then what we'll do is we'll kind of turn it back over to Ephraim and to Will, their in-house underwriter, and we'll kind of chat through some of best practices to go through and how to find these cases, how to set the expectation, and really how to go through the process. So first and foremost, I guess I should just double check before I start talking. I think everybody can see this on the screen. Ephraim, if you want to give me like a thumbs up or a yeah. Cool. So Lincoln is a life insurance carrier. We focus on term business. We focus on IUL. We focus on variable business. We also focus in the annuity space. We have DI type of opportunities. So we are not just a life insurance company. However, we have life insurance roots, and that is our main bread and butter in terms of a business perspective. As a result of that, Lincoln is really focused, I would say, as an underwriting carrier. That is where a lot of our niches come into place these days. And, up on here on the slide, there's 10 different reasons of why Lincoln fits into, being a niche for some of these underwriting pieces. There's some great opportunities in the, professional athlete space. We've got the ability to really piece together some large policies when it comes to retention and reinsurance and things of that nature. But you'll notice that there's two that I've really highlighted on the top right that I think are going to set us apart from an impaired risk perspective. The first one on the top, that's really more on simplicity of the actual process. And I think a lot of carriers have this these days, but it's not necessarily impaired risk, but it is simplicity of the process, which is an accelerated underwriting opportunity that we have for your clients. And what accelerated underwriting means is no labs, no exams. If your client comes in, they do a phone interview or an online interview, up to 2.5 million of coverage, up to age 60, they have the potential to get through the underwriting process, no labs, no exams, which is the easiest, simplest way that you could possibly go through underwriting. We're batting about just below 50% average on that. So if you're a pessimist, 50% of your clients wouldn't make it through that program. If you're an optimist, about 50% of them will make it through the program. And that may not sound like great odds, but I'll tell you, batting 500 in baseball's incredibly, incredibly solid numbers. And that is about the same structure that you would see in a lot of those automated underwriting processes in the industry. So that's one niche where we really fit. But the biggest one, I think, for us is that second highlighted bullet point. And that second highlighted bullet point talks about how we're competitive with non-tobacco rates for things like Zyn, things like cigar usage, things like tobacco chew. Most carriers in the marketplace, if you utilize a nicotine-based product, if you utilize chew, if you utilize something like a cigar, you're going to get smoker rates. And as a result of those smoker rates, your client is going to pay a premium. And so if you have a client where you've tried to get insurance on them in the past, or you maybe haven't tried, but you're looking to do so, and they use Zins, they use the cigar, they use chew, we can be a very nice opportunity for you guys because we treat those folks as non-tobacco rates. And you can get preferred rates with those individuals as well, depending on usage, depending on their history. And so that can be a big premium saver as you're going through and looking at the opportunities for these clients. And in the same vein, it's not listed on here, but something we're also very competitive and flexible on is the usage of marijuana. I think the usage of marijuana has just grown. It's become more prevalent. And as a result, it's infiltrated into the underwriting world. We have to account for that. And not all carriers treat it as simply as we do. But because marijuana is not a nicotine based, we don't view that as a smoker. So they wouldn't get tobacco rates. So they still have the opportunity to get non-tobacco rates with marijuana usage. We will just limit the risk class available, whether it's, preferred, standard, based off of the amount of usage that they do on a consistent basis. So if you have someone that is, I'll call it, in that progressive lifestyle of utilizing these types of products, utilizing marijuana, Lincoln is a very competitive carrier in that space because really almost all the other carriers in the marketplace treat them as smoker risk classes. So something to keep into account when you guys are looking at those opportunities. Another component of our platform that's very competitive is for folks that have foreign national clients or international clients. Placing life insurance on international clients can be a difficult process, to be completely honest. I think there's been a lot of walls up in the industry, and they're slowly kind of coming down as we become into a more global economy. But having clients that don't live in the US for the full year, or they're, not a US citizen, but they're living in the United States with some ties here, it can be difficult to get insurance on them. And so we've got a very nice niche in this space for a couple reasons. One is our minimum net worth requirement for those individuals is relatively low comparison to the industry. It's only $1 million of net worth. So if they're $1 million net worth or more, they may qualify. We go up to age 75. And one of the biggest pieces for us, if you see those two arrows on the right-hand side, when you're doing foreign national business or international business in the US, clients need to have what we call nexus. We need to have a tie to the United States and the justifiable reason why they're getting insurance in the United States. And that typically is the biggest deal breaker for why clients don't purchase that insurance, is because they often don't qualify with that nexus. So owning a home in the US, owning a business in the US, having immediate family in the US, all of those types of things are pretty standard Nexus aspects. But the two that we see bullet pointed with the arrows next to them are two additional easy ways to get Nexus ties to the US. That first one is regular ongoing travel to the US for business or for pleasure. So if they come here on vacation and they're doing at least 2 weeks plus a year, we can utilize that past history of coming to the US consistently as a nexus tie to the United States. In addition to that, an alternative option is if a client has $25,000 in a US bank account for at least 30 days prior to the application, that also will qualify them for nexus and a tie to the United States. So the hurdle of making that tie to US is relatively low with Lincoln. And in addition to that, the process of doing foreign national business can be difficult because if your client's coming from abroad to the US, they do their lab, they do their exam, insurance can take a couple weeks, a couple months, depending on what the client's health is, depending if we have to go get doctor records. And it can be difficult to plan for when the client should return to the US so they can deliver the policy. We've made that process much simpler as we now allow a limited power of attorney for delivery for your clients. So what that means is if your clients come, let's say from Japan, they sign their application, they do their exam, their labs, they go on home, the life insurance policy is issued a month later. As long as they designated a third party via that power of attorney, they don't have to come back all the way to the US to sign and deliver and place that policy. That third party can sign and deliver that policy on their behalf, including things like a good health statement. So it makes the process of placing international business much, much simpler and gives us a very unique niche in that space. Additionally, if you're looking at clients, especially for folks that you see the rise of AI and you see a lot of, private equity coming out, venture capital business these days, oftentimes when you're looking at this type of opportunity, if you've got someone that's got a startup and they're heavily invested in, you'll often see them require a need for life insurance on that individual. We call it key person insurance, but it's almost like debt obligation insurance because of the investment in their business. And a lot of life insurance carriers are not comfortable always with the multiples on that. So, if there's $100 million invested in the business, typically what they'll want to see is maybe 20 times that person's income or a much lower percentage of that $100 million invested that they'll allow key person coverage on. We have a unique stance, and it's not necessarily an impaired risk niche, but it is an underwriting risk niche. In that, in these style of cases, if you have someone that's got a startup and heavily invested in, and they're looking for key person or debt obligation insurance, we will allow, on the lower end, 25% of that investment in key person coverage, on the high end, 50%. So if we've got $100 million investment, you could think around 25 million on the low, 50 million on the high. And that's dependent, frankly, on the business financials and our view on the potential future of that business. So the example I often utilize is if your client's starting a newspaper business, you can probably expect that multiple to be more on the 25% side. Whereas if they're starting maybe an AI company, it's probably more on the 50% side. So we're looking at, the potential growth and viability of that business. But from a multiple perspective, Lincoln has a niche in allowing much higher multiples on this style of key person coverage than you see in a lot of other carriers. And as a result, it makes the financial underwriting side of that much, much easier. So again, something just to kind of focus on. And, if you look through the non-tobacco places, you look through the four national niches, you look through the key person business focus, I would say the main niche of our overall portfolio and where we really kind of tie in from an impaired risk perspective is something that we've had on the books for years, and I think often folks forget about it, but it's a huge piece of our business, which is the table reduction program. And Efren and I work on cases like this all the time. But how the table reduction program works is it's only on indexed universal life business, so it doesn't work for term, but up to $10 million of coverage, up to age 70. If your client is qualifying at a table C as in Charlie or B as in boy, that risk class will automatically get approved to a standard risk class. And so that's an extremely big differentiator, especially if you have an impaired risk client that maybe has gone through underwriting elsewhere and is coming back with a table B or a table C risk class. You can save many dollars of premium or get them better cash returns or whatever the goal is simply by using this program because it's an automatic increase that gets your client back to standard where they would otherwise have a table C rating. And so, Ephraim, I don't know if you want to kind of chime in on a case that we've worked on together where we've done exactly that, saved the client some dollars, maybe just kind of give some, color to this program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I think, just got placed about 2-3 weeks ago. Client ended up getting a table 5 health rating from another carrier. And actually, we went to Will, who's our underwriter here. He hit it on the head, the expected table rating that we would expect to get. And so we took it over. He gave us a range, took it over to Lincoln once we had the offer in hand from another carrier. And once we had that offer in hand and took it to Lincoln, Nick was super helpful. And I think we got table 3. It took it straight up to standard, saved the client over $7,000 a year in annual premium. So it was basically saved the case for the agent because the initial offer we received just took it out of the price range for the client, and by getting a standard rating, it saved the case. And now agent is doing a few more of these cases that he got declined. We're taking looks at previous clients that had those declination letters and seeing if we can get those into offers.
Exactly. I think that's a great use case for how this program is built and works. And so I would say if anyone's on this call that has a client that's been table rated like that in the past, just even if it's not table B or C, right? Reach out to Ephraim and his team and they can kind of help you guys piece together, and it might make sense to position it with us or position it with another carrier. But that's the value of working with Ephraim and his team is they can kind of help turn a case that was originally going to, decline and going to not place to a sale that placed for the client and save them $7,000 a year.
Will, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, let me jump in first. Take a step back on the initial part of the call and what makes Dunhill Insurance unique. Myself and Ken Terzak are the 2 full-time underwriters at Dunhill. And what makes us unique is we're home office trained. We've worked at insurance carriers. From one reason or the other, we came to the BGA side. So what that really means is we can speak the agent speak, we can speak the underwriter speak. We're on the phones with these underwriters, the Lincoln folks who have a dedicated team for Dunhill. We're on there every couple of weeks explaining what's going on in the industry. The beauty of being in the BGA world is, hey, we know what Lincoln's doing. We know what John Hancock's doing. We know what Prue's doing, and it goes on and on. So between the 2 of us, we have almost 75 years of underwriting experience. So if you go around to other BGAs, that it makes unique is they might have what they call underwriters. They're high-level case managers that might be able to do some field underwriting. We have access to the manuals that these carriers have. We have the major industry manuals, Swiss Re, Hanover Re, Gen Re, Munich Re, the proprietary manuals. So when Ephraim talks about the case where we went from table 5 to a table C to standard, it's okay, what does Lincoln use as a manual, which their base manual is Swiss Re. Allow crediting opportunities within the Swiss Re manual. Lincoln actually has proprietary lipid credits that gets us another table. So that 5 table goes from a credit from 5 to 4 to lipid credits that gets us to 3, which allows us to use the table shade. So there's method to our madness when we help Ephraim and his team on the sales side, because we understand underwriting is only one part of the world. You got to get to the product side as well. So to kind of bookend and kind of close the loop on what Nick said, every highlight, an underwriting a highlight he indicated is 1,000%. One thing I would talk about on the tobacco use, very important when we talk about Zyn, pipes, cigars, chewing tobacco, it is admitted to. That is full disclosure is important to get those non-tobacco rates. If we do not disclose it, then we are subject to tobacco rates because of the non-disclosure. It's kind of like strike 1 is strike 3. You get the one chance to disclose it. For national market, Lincoln by far has one of the best nexus that you're going to find, or easiest to qualify for. Global net worth is only $1 million. Most carriers you're dealing with is somewhere between, we'll call 3 to 5 to be able to get there. The funds have to come from a U.S. bank account. So minimum funding amount is $25,000, but that is going to be minus the premium of the insurance policy. So because we have a minimum global net worth, the minimum face amount is $1 million. And this is for a permanent product for the foreign national business. And one last thing I will highlight about the foreign national business, they don't have, compliance doesn't get into the country list for the most part. So you might have some carriers where, hey, French law says you can't own U.S. life insurance, or Japanese law says you can't own U.S. life insurance. Lincoln actually does business out of Japan, which is a huge niche. So at the end of the day, what I want to close the loop is we work with Ephraim and his team. We understand how to navigate impaired risk, whether it's getting additional tests, getting doctor letters, clearing up any ambiguity, which carriers is best for a certain impairment. It's not an impairment, excuse me. One size does not fit all. Some carriers are good at cardiac history. Some are good at GI history, and we know how to navigate to that. So that's what's really differentiates us from other BGAs.
Yep. Oh, thank you, Will. Absolutely. And the other thing I want to add to that, what Will just said, is in today's day and age of algorithms and everyone trying to implement AI into every process that they can, a lot of these insurance carriers on the underwriting side are trying to make everything fit into a box. And the time when you need to have human intervention, because sometimes people have other issues, health issues, whatever it may be. So that's where we really come in, is when the client doesn't fit into that exact box that these underwriting teams have. We come in and, I guess you could say, save the day. Wanted to thank everybody. Well, before I do that, Nick or Will, do you have anything else you guys want to add before?
Yeah, I'll just touch base. Part of the algorithms and what's going on in medical claims data checks, the smaller face amounts, hey, we're trying to, how do we touch it less? How do we not order APSs? So one of the items you'll see all the time is the Milliman report. Lincoln actually does a really good job of taking the Milliman report and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. They do review it and says what makes sense. A lot of carriers don't do that. So we've saved, gosh, it's getting to hundreds now at this point with, hey, this carrier declined it because the Milliman report, client downloads the Milliman report, you get it to Ephraim and his team, who gets it to us. We go through it, and the impairment that's listed on there is really for medical testing reasons. Client really doesn't have this actual diagnosis or impairment, and we've, whether it's a doctor letter or got a copy of the test showing that, hey, this individual doesn't have it, and we have saved numerous cases because of this. So technology is great when it works smoothly, but technology takes away some cases that we bring back to the fold and make them insurable.
No, absolutely. Nick, you want to add anything else?
No, I mean, Will pretty much hit the nail on the head, right? Like, from a product provider perspective, we focus very well in the underwriting space. But also to Will's point, that is not the only aspect, and that's why I'd highly recommend working with an Ephraim and his team, because that's not the only piece. You're looking at product, you're looking at service, you're looking at ease of business. And if you're not doing insurance on a daily business all day long, then you might not be fully aware of some of the changes or the niches that are out there. Ephraim's entire job is focused around insurance placement, right, and working with financial advisors. So it's would be helpful, I think, for a lot of you to utilize them just because of the expertise that they provide and the resources they have. They've got us at the carrier level to lean on. They've got Will from the underwriting perspective to lean on, and they've accumulated those resources and that knowledge to help your business move forward. So you don't have to worry about the insurance piece as much. That's what they're there for. So I think that's really it from my perspective, is just making sure that they understand kind of the value you guys provide.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And our phones are always open. So if you guys even just have a question, doesn't have to be a specific case, we're more than happy to take your call, answer any questions you have. That's what me and my team are here for. So give us a call if you have any questions. I would like to open the floor for any questions. Also to thank everybody for being here till the end of the call. We're going to do a raffle for a free box of Pro V1s from Lincoln. So just give me 1 second so I can run this random generator. And we will mail those out to whoever does win.
Big bucks, no whammies, you know what I'm saying?
Hey Nick, you can send me a box. I do a good job of advertising Lincoln when I'm on the golf course too.
I do a great job, Nick. Tons of Lincoln balls left behind. So it looks like
Yes.
Kim, you won the box of Pro V1s. So I'll reach out to you, Kim, too, after the call. And we'll get an address, the best address to mail those to you. And then if anyone has any questions, again, would like to give an opportunity, raise your hand, or I'll send everyone a follow-up email with this recording and you'll have my contact info. John, I see you raised your hand. Let's see if I can bring you in. Here. Hey, John, you're on the screen here. You're muted. You want to go ahead?
I'm not going to show you my hairdo today. I just got done with the workout, so it's not pretty. But I have a question. I've got a guy that got denied because he has the CPAP, and so he only took it because the doctor said, here, take it, and then he hasn't even been using it. So over the last 3-4 months, and what I was doing, I was taking 4 policies and putting them into one with Midland, but Midland says no until you get this. He has to get another test for the CPAP to get that cleared.
Yeah, so you just don't. Doctors just doesn't give you CPAP machines. He had a sleep study, and there's different measurements in the sleep study that you do. So it's mild, moderate, or severe, and it's something called an AHI that we actually look in the total desaturation of your oxygen levels. Those are the 2 items we look at in the sleep study. So my guess is if Midland declined it, he tested for severe sleep apnea because mild and moderate would be insurable. So there's more to the story. So if you could ask your client for a copy of the sleep study, send that off to Ephraim. He can get it to me.
I will try. I think that's the problem we're having, is because he went from down here, it's called Kaiser, to Sharp. And so we're trying to get Kaiser to get that information over.
Yeah, so as a Southern Californian who used to go to Kaiser, not a
Yeah.
fan,
Yep.
but
Neither am I.
that's
That's a death sentence.
one thing they do pretty good job of is their patient portal. You
Okay.
probably can just jump on there and download the sleep study, or you should be able to download the sleep study and send it to
Would he
you.
still have access to that if he's not with Kaiser?
I mean, how long ago did he stop going to Kaiser?
Oh gosh, over a year ago.
I would think it's got to be at least good for 5. I'm
Okay.
not an expert on that, but he should have no problem
I'll check
to
into
set
that.
up an account.
And so
I
we're
think
just
it's
waiting for him
5
to
to
do
7
another
years.
sleep study. There's been some complications with coordinating, and anyways, he's older and he just doesn't
Well,
do the coordinating like he used to.
the
Huh?
older the better. And so I'm not saying he has to do another. If Midland's taking the worst case scenario and they don't have a copy of the study, getting the copy of the study could actually bring that case back around. Because if you only had mild, they'll prescribe you a CPAP if you only had mild. And if
Hmm.
you don't use it, we don't really care in the underwriting world. It says it gets
Well,
more severe.
yeah, so I hear what you're saying. It's just that I'm just going on with what he said. He's like, yeah, I haven't even used it. And they recommended I have it, but I don't even use it. And that doesn't mean he doesn't need it. But obviously he's not saying I need to get my CPAP
The,
again because I
this
can't sleep and all that stuff.
the sleep study is the
The
golden
key.
goose here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've been after him to try to get that sleep study. He's trying to. So, I wanted to hear how the imperative risk factor is with CPAP. So that was really good information. I appreciate that, Will.
My pleasure.
John, I'll send you an email after this call too. So if you have any
Okay, thank you.
questions, no problem. So we have another question from Tony. I think this one's gonna be for you, Nick. Can you give an example of a non-smoker from Chile for 2 million?
Oh, like a sample illustration? Is that what Tony's looking for?
It just says, can you
I'm
give
not
us?
sure.
No, I think it's like a
or is it a
process.
foreign national from Chile?
Foreign national thing from Chile is what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, so Chile is an approved country with Lincoln.
It's not.
So
No, it is. It is.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes.
it is. So I mean, it would go through the foreign national program, right? So he would have to qualify with the nexus component that we were talking about. Multiple different ways to qualify. 2 million is a totally fine face amount. We have to just be above $1 million of face. Has to have above $1 million of the global net worth. And then it just depends on what his nexus is and the structuring of the policy. But Tony, that's a totally plausible opportunity. I would say the biggest hurdle always with foreign national business is truly the nexus, to be honest. A lot of the times I think folks, they haven't really dialed that part in. Once we dial that in, then we can kind of work on putting it into action.
And one of the nexus is that bank account, guys. So not here to advise how to get here to fund it, but getting that bank account set up 30 days prior to the insurance of 25,000 or above creates that nexus, and you only have to wait 30 days. Why most
Yep.
carriers, if you want to do that as your nexus, is like 6 months. So it's a huge niche there.
Yeah, 65-year-old Tony. I'm gonna follow up with you after the call. I'll give you a call, and we'll speak, and I'll get all the information. I'll get you an illustration over, and if we need to, we'll schedule a call, you and I.
Perfect.
Anyone else have any questions or anything else? Well, then on that note, I'm not seeing any. I'll stick around in this room for another 5-10 minutes. If anyone has any questions, wants any answers. Oh, Tony just have one other question. What other countries are available in Latin America?
So
Be honest, I'm
probably
not good with my
Ephraim,
geography, but it's like he probably,
yeah,
I have a list.
Ephraim is probably best, and I can email it to you, the foreign national guide for Lincoln. It actually has all the countries that are approved.
Perfect. So
That's
Tony, on our call, we'll go over any question you have for Latin America, foreign nationals, and I'll get you all those answers you have, specifics. Nick, Will, if you want to stick around, more than welcome to answer questions. If not, totally get it. and I'll still be here.
I'll hang for a few.
Yeah,
I'll shoot you
I'll
this
say
right
quick
now, by
remote.
the way. The Foreign National Guide, just so you have it.
So you're gonna email it to him, Nick?
Yeah, I just shot it over. I
Right.
put you on, I think, CC.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim. I'll reach out to you, make sure I get the proper address for you.
All right.
I think people are starting to dribble out. I think we're good to end the
Yeah.
event.
Yeah. And after, if you get, as you get underwriting questions come your way, you forward them to me.
You got it. Yeah.